Hello Giants fans, welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. I told you wrong about the Giants rotation. Did anyone catch it? I'm sorry about that. There was a lot to keep track of. I went through the list of their starters and I totally left out Alex Cobb, and I led you to believe there was an extra spot for Sean Manaea or Jacob Junis. Well, there's not unless there's an injury. And Cobb, his projections are really good, and I understand the whole thing with the Giants' defense last year not being good. I think it affected Cobb's performance tremendously, so we could see him being an all-star this year, but definitely he comes before either Junis or Manaea in the rotation. So I'm sorry about that mistake. There was just a ton of information to keep track of. The Giants beat the Mariners 7-4 today. Logan Webb pitched 5 innings. He gave up 1 run. That's really a great start for him. And he still needs to kind of stretch out to the point of pitching 7 innings. Usually teams don't get to that. Well, sometimes they don't until the very end of spring training. Actually, I shouldn't say usually, because there actually are quite a few times where starters will go like 6 or 7 in maybe early March. But it was 5 innings for Webb today. I would say that's the finishing touch. Just make sure their pitchers can go through the lineups 3 times or even more when necessary without facing adverse side effects. So Webb gives up 1 run, pitches 5 innings. That's great. He will be the opening day starter going against Yankees ace Garrett Cole. They'll come together on opening day. The Yankees are going to be a tough team for the Giants to play. They almost won a championship at some point over the past few years, but clearly they're an inferior team to the Astros. The Astros have taken care of them in 3 American League Championship series. So far, no championship for the Yankees, but I would say they definitely are a threat, and certainly the Giants are going to need to be prepared to be on fire if they want to win this opening series in the 2023 season. I think if they do win it, that will kind of start the element of surprising the naysayers that we're looking to do this year. I think if they win this series against the Yankees, that might initiate the whole process of people who don't think the Giants are going to do well. I really see 2 classes of people here. Some say the Giants aren't going anywhere, but there are some who are looking at all the facts in really a different way and being optimistic about it and saying, okay, no, the Giants' offseason wasn't what we hoped it would be, but just look at the team, look at the way it's constructed. If you really pay attention to all these little details, you see that they do have legitimate playoff chances. Now, their overall projections, it's different depending on which system you go with. We would like to think they're going to be at least that second wild card spot. There are systems that would say the other teams are going to be ahead of them, so whether they'll need to do something kind of above and beyond expectations, I would say at least in the way of situational performance, they're going to have to make every run count and get hits and prevent them at the right times. At least along those lines, we're going to have good, what some people call luck, but what I call player skill in the way of situational performance. So we'll see how it goes. Opening day, I'm glad we got Logan Webb. The bats are going to have to come to life, and the bullpen's going to have to be good. It's just this first series against the Yankees. It's not everything, but a lot of the reason why I'm thinking so hard about it tonight is just that it could be like the first step in whether we hear, yeah, see, the Giants aren't doing anything, or oh, well, they're sure surprising being a good team like the Yankees, so maybe I just, that's the way I see this opening series, and hopefully the Giants can really come in at their best and win it. Sean Jelly relieved Webb and pitched 2 scoreless innings, and Ben Kaspick, the Locked On Giants host, said something that, he kind of surprised me, but he believes that Jelly will make the opening day roster, and I wasn't sure that he would, because Giants have plenty of starters. I mean, they could use a multi-inning reliever, but it seems like they've already got plans for that. With Junis and Manaea, both, there's no real rotation spot for either of them, since I corrected my mistake about Alex Cobb, putting him in there. It's Logan Webb, Ross Stripling, Alex Cobb, Anthony DeSclafani, and Alex Wood most likely to be in the rotation. Although I did hear a bit about Wood possibly pitching out of the bullpen. In that case, I guess that'd be to open up a spot for Manaea. I think still it's slightly more likely that at least at the beginning of the season, Wood will pitch in the rotation. You got to remember his ERA over 500 last year. That wasn't good. So if the Giants, if he struggles to begin the season, then it'd be good for the Giants at least to try out Junis or Manaea there and put Wood in the bullpen. Or if they want to try putting Wood in the bullpen to start the season, I don't really have a problem with that either. I think that's an area where I hate to say I can't answer something, but I think manager Gabe Kapler and the coaches, they're the next in line to the players, and I think they would just have more information and probably a better sense of what to do in regard to putting Alex Wood in the rotation or Jacob Junis or Sean Manaea. I think that to be honest, they've just got a better sense of what to do, and that we probably don't know this from just looking at it from the subjective standpoint that we are. So I know I said there's no extra spot for Junis or Manaea, but there would be if Wood is used as a reliever, and the Giants are going to have to basically decide about that. But Sean Jelly making the team, it would surprise me a little, since it kind of seems like the Giants do have plans for long relief, but they have expressed that they want to use their bullpen that way, like using multi-inning relievers a lot. And if they want to carry guys like that, then it could honestly make sense. And you can't have too much bullpen depth as long as it's not taking away from other areas of your roster. And so if they want to carry Sean Jelly on the team, I'm sure that there will be a use for him at some point, taking innings off of others, or if he's really good pitching in critical situations, there probably will be a use for him. So it might make sense if he does fit on the roster well, and there's no one else. There's no benefit to be gained from having an extra position player or extra reliever who can only pitch one inning per appearance. Then that's where you probably say, yeah, why not carry Sean Jelly on the roster? Lamont Wade Jr. had 2 hits today. That included a double. I think it's good with Wade that his average, while not great, is up from what it was. It was in the 100s, I think, at the start of spring training. But his average, so it's still not great, but it is up about 260 right now. And it's better, certainly, than it was in his time in the bigs last year. Of course, his time in the bigs last year is the larger sample, so that's definitely what we'd have to kind of go by first. But at least we see maybe a potential turnaround for Wade. And the fact that he's doing something in spring training, it's definitely better than if he just wasn't doing anything, or if his average was still down and all that. So I'm happy about what we are seeing from Lamont Wade in spring training. I know that things could be worse with him, and that he does have power, and he has the ability to hit right-handed pitching. And I think it really could turn out, great at that first base position with Wade playing it, as far as in relation to what we expected. If Wade can hit against right-handed pitching and have occasional power against both, more like consistent power against right-handed pitching, but maybe some occasional power against left-handed pitching. Even if he's striking out a ton against left-handed pitching, the fact that he doesn't have a platoon partner means we want him to be able to hit left-handed pitching some. But even if he's striking out a ton, can't hit for a whole ton of average against them, if he could hit an occasional homer or double, just show some occasional power against left-handed pitching, then he's not facing them completely for nothing. If at least platoon advantages kind of put aside here, he could demonstrate power with the bat that can just kind of occasionally turn into something. That's what we'd really want to see. Blake Sable had another hit today, but it was a bunt base hit, so it's good. He can do a whole ton of stuff. And bunting for a hit, that's probably the most diverse thing we've seen him do. We've seen his power. He's hit for extra bases. Now he's bunted for one. It's good to see players kind of developing a broad skill set, and this was just one occurrence. I'm not going to go out from here and say he's a great bunter now, but it's one occurrence. But honestly, when we're already seeing Sable get hits just about every day, it seems, that still is impressive to me that now we see him do it by bunting the ball on the ground. Just however he can get on base, he's going to do it. And it's not like he'd be a speedy runner being a catcher and all either, so it's got to have a lot to do with the execution of the bunt. I'm not saying one appearance tells us everything, but just the things we're seeing him do this spring training, and you see him do something unique and different now, it still just adds to the excitement on Sable for me. So today, I was listening to Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, and I bring this up because there are just some important points that need to be made, based on his interview with Mark Simon from Sports Info Solutions. So Marty asked Mark basically how he thought the Giants were going to do, and Mark, he responded by just basically being honest and upfront and talking from the analytical knowledge that he had and saying that the rotation would need to be one of the best in the game, and the wins above replacement, like Logan Webb, he'd have to be a 5, and like I think he said, DeSclafani at least a 3. And I'm not going to go through it all. It's hard to remember everything he said myself, but that was basically the gist of it. The rotation, it has to be good. It can't just be okay or survivable. It's going to have to be good, and particularly since he's maybe not super optimistic about the bats. But he did get to offensive stuff next. He said that the hitters, that they'd pretty much all have to be, or at least a ton of them, would have to be like a 2.0 wins above replacement. That would include like Joey Bart, and while maybe he was undervalued a bit last year because he was at least above average for his position, the catcher, I guess catchers were just bad last year, apparently, from what I heard today. I guess catchers were just kind of bad last year or whatever, but anyway, Mark was saying that the hitters, they're going to have like all these guys able to put up a 2.0 at least wins above replacement, but that the bad news, he said, was that the Giants didn't seem to have anybody who could project to be a 5.0 WAR guy, which was a problem. Now, I'll just interject. We know why that is. I don't mean to keep revisiting it. It's over. It's done. We can't change what the Giants lost in their offseason. We know why it happened, but it's the way it is. And Mark Simon was saying he couldn't see any of the players projecting to be a 5 wins above replacement. And Jock Peterson, he didn't mention him, but Peterson wasn't that last year. Now, honestly, I will just say with Peterson, remember, he's a bad defender. He's going to be playing DH this year, hopefully, unless Mitch Haniger has to come in and hog up the spot because he can't play outfield when he gets back from the injured list, which would be just terrible to me. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Haniger, if he's going to come back from the injured list, plays outfield and plays it well so that we can leave that DH spot for Jock Peterson. Keep his poor defense off the field. What would his wins above replacement be if we didn't have to factor in that defense? Well, I don't know. It probably still wouldn't be 5, but who knows what it would be, and he could get better this year. But that's basically the problem, according to Mark Simon. And Marty Laurie, then he said that from his perspective, the critical things for the Giants were really going to be power and speed, along with, obviously, everybody being tolerably effective at the plate and not falling into unpredictable slumps and all that. He said he's really looking at power and speed if they can hit those home runs and run the bases. And he asked Mark, basically, do you think that brings the number up a little bit? He's like, I'm more optimistic about this because I think the Giants, they've got that power and they, I think he mentioned, excuse me, I'll get to this with the bullpen. And then Mark said, yeah, it's not impossible. It might be a long shot, basically, but it's not impossible. Everything pretty much would have to go right. And Marty, he just reinstated, his confidence that the Giants bullpen would be good. He mentioned that thing with the Giants using some of their, capable starters in the bullpen. He's saying that might make a difference, and that was like after Mark pointed out that the 3 back-end guys, that would include Camilo Doval and probably whether Taylor Rogers, and it could be all those guys. I hope I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, John Brebbia too. He'd probably be a back-end guy. They're going to have to basically not blow saves, I think was what he was saying, and not... That's going to have to be pretty much lights out, and yeah, so Marty Laurie, when he got to the topic of the Giants bullpen, he was pretty happy about it. He thought things were going to go pretty well for them, and definitely too, these one-run games, they have to go the Giants' way, and that it's definitely going to be a lot of it. So I think, honestly, that the Giants have the stuff to do it this year. The people who are predicting things in ways that I really trust and look up to, it seems that they'll be likely to go somewhere if things don't go, terribly wrong, or if there's not a noticeable effect where they just can't hit when they need to, or they're not pitching out of jams and pitchers are giving up runs at all of the wrong times, honestly. And if you're gonna and don't think any of those myths that might be going around. I don't know what you've been hearing about using sabermetrical analysis and how that makes you accept that a lot of the things we say are player and team skill are just luck. It's not true. We accept the analytics and the metrics and all that, but I still believe that we don't, we don't say a team's Pythagorean record is all it is, and the distribution of runs is luck. We don't say player performance in specific situations is that. You can be an analytical person without saying that, and that's what I think we should be here. It's going to depend on, I think basically we've gathered all the information we can probably at this point about what we should project the Giants to do, and it's going to depend on how they execute. That's really what I call all of this situational stuff here, and it's going to be about, honestly, I think, how they execute, and then just that no players fall into slumps, that we expected significantly better performance, because they're going to have to be at least average, and the fact that the Giants have to have a lot of adequate to good players, it's going to have to remain true, basically. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions and comments, and I'll try to answer any questions that you might have. I always like it when I get those. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.